we have been talking about growing deeper with others. And I think by now, no one needs to make the case to you, or needs to make the case for the fact that you are designed to connect. You're designed to relate. You're designed to be with another. And not just a single other, with many others and in many different ways, right? Of course, like when I said another, you probably thought like marriage, and so you have like your spouse or something, or your fiance or boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever. But you're also designed to be a part of this community. Actually, God by nature is a relationship. Love is a relationship, right? So if there's any kind of confusion about that, it should be cleared up. We can talk about it. But the key message here that for the key like thread that's threaded through this whole thing is that you are designed to be with people. You're designed to connect with others. And today we're going to talk about communication, because connection does not happen without communication. And sorry for the introverts. I am not an introvert, but I know many introverts. And introverts are people who are energized by being alone, which is really important, not just for introverts, it's important for extroverts too, right? But some of us are so inclined to be alone, or maybe some of us were so hurt by other people or by groups of people that we just pull into like our safe zone, which is actually a very dangerous zone to be in, because you're acting and living outside of what you were designed to do and to be, right? Okay, so communication is really, really important. And I want to start off by talking about how to ride a bike. Does anybody have any idea what it's like to learn how to ride a bike? Not ride a bike, we'll get to riding a bike. What's it like to learn how to ride a bike? Do you guys usually have like interactive things, or should I talk straight through? Because I have a lot of like non-rhetorical questions. In other words, like ones you answer. So, yeah, I think so. Yes.
Well, most people don't go straight to riding until they need training wheels.
Yeah, you need training wheels. Yeah.
Most people fall and stuff their knees.
Great, excellent. Great, you already covered like half the slide. This is great. So one of the things you have to do when learning how to ride a bike is balancing your weight, right? Like you're going straight, and of course all of us, the ones here who know how to ride a bike, you're not like concerned about this issue, right? You're on the next slide, the mastery part or success, right? But when you're learning how to ride a bike, you're like, oh, I gotta like keep this thing like straight and not tipping over, right? That's really hard. So distributing weight appropriately to both sides. Failure, you fall off. Right? You're riding the bike, you're trying to drive this thing or whatever you do with bikes, and you fall, right? That's tough. And also, because of the failure and because of your inexperience in balancing, there's a lot of fear. If God came to you and said, hey, you who has never ridden a bike before, you will never, or you will not fall off the bike this time. I don't care if you know how to ride it or you don't know how to ride it, you will not fall off. You're just going to go and ride that bike. You're not going to fall off, right? You're just going to go. But we don't know the outcome of our attempts to ride a bike when you're learning, right? When you're learning how to ride a bike, there's nobody telling you you're not going to fall off. You actually just don't know. And so you're afraid because you don't know what the outcome is going to be. Also, the terrain is rough. Like you're riding your bike, and if you're riding your bike in like New York City, or you're doing one of those hiking trail things that outdoorsy people like to do. I'm not an outdoorsy person. So they like ride a bike in like lakes and like tsunamis and stuff. So you're riding your bike, and there's a dirt road, there's rocks, there's paved stuff, and then like the transition is also very hard, right? Like you go from like a smooth road to like a dirt road. That's hard. That's not easy, guys. That's hard, right? All right. Maybe it's just hard for me. I don't know. No one is nodding their head. So, and also malfunction, like unmet expectations. Like sometimes you could be riding the bike, and then the brake stops working, or the tire deflates, or one of the spokes. You guys know what a spoke is, like those things in between the tire and the rim thing. It gets loose. Like those all have to be tightened perfectly, right? There's like 50 of them or whatever, right? So it's not easy to learn how to ride a bike. Okay, we'll come back to this in a second. What does mastery look like? You distribute weight so well on the bicycle that you can carry additional weight. So I used to live in New York City, and you have all these like delivery people just riding bikes everywhere, and they're like you think they have wings or something. They can just like they're like and like they have like they're delivering food, so they have all the food like on one handlebar. And I'm like, how are you not tipping over that way? Like they're just going straight, but they're distributing their weight so well that they're not falling off, right? Everything is just fine. They rarely fall. Failure is, there's a much lower risk for failure. There's confidence, right? So that's another thing that's a little different when you know how to ride a bike. That you look at something and you go for it, right? That's what confidence is. You don't know the future, but you have confidence of what the outcome is going to be. Or that you have confidence in yourself, which is very important, right? You have to have confidence that you can traverse this thing, right? And also, the terrains are seamless, right? You kind of just go to all these different environments and you're cool, right? Everything is just fine, no matter where you go. And you also know how to evaluate your bike. You could look at your bike, you say, oh, there's an issue. Or you could be riding the bike and something stops working, you know what to do. You know, oh, it's because the brake's not working. I can use the other brake. I can slow down. I can't go anymore. I need to stop, right? Okay. Let's just go back for a second and put this all in the context of communication, because we're going to talk about communication as a skill, right? Communication, good communication, is not a personality trait. All right, I said it. All right, good communication is not a personality trait. You're not like born with all these skills. It's a skill, meaning you learn it, right? That means it takes time. It means you have to work. It's something that anyone can do. Anyone can learn how to be a good communicator. Anyone, right? Even you. Well. So let's talk about this, right? Of course, like this is similar to riding a bike, distributing weight appropriately to both sides. Learning the skill of good communication and learning how to like let that person talk, you talk. How do we balance this, right? Somebody talked about balance, right? Like reciprocity, right? Falling off. So there isn't failure. Have any of you guys ever knew you were about to have a difficult conversation? Like you remember we talked about challenge, right? You know you're about to have a difficult conversation and you don't know the outcome. And you're like, man, like, or another one is maybe there's a specific topic that you have with someone who's close to you that every time you're going to fail. You're going to fail. You don't want to even get into the topic because you're going to fail, right? You don't know what the outcome is going to be. The difficult environment. Sometimes, guys, it's not about us being bad communicators or good communicators. Sometimes the environment just stinks, right? Sometimes you're just in a place where you can't hear each other. Sometimes you're just tired. Sometimes you're hungry. You know, sometimes it's too late. Whatever, right? Like there's just so many things. Sometimes you're distracted. We talked about, you guys mentioned all these things, by the way, right? The environment could keep you from communicating effectively. And unmet expectations. You go into a discussion, you're expecting someone to have the same worldview, and they don't, right? You're expecting someone to speak the same language. You're expecting someone to care about this issue or to prioritize it. You're expecting someone to be ready to talk, and they're not ready. That's not fair. I'm ready to talk. Why can't they talk? I'm ready to talk. Talk to me now, right? You can't. It's unmet expectations. So sad, right? And here, but when you're a master of good communication, or as you're becoming good at it, you know how to just balance, create an average balance in the discussion, in the relationship. You rarely fail. You have confidence. That some people actually at work. There's this guy, he's a much more senior than I am. And he has these, I could be in a tough situation with some very sensitive people. Not sensitive because of their emotions, I mean sensitive in terms of their role. And I'm tripping on my words, trying to figure out how to, craft this message to get it to them. And I'm failing, just faltering and just not getting it, right? And he has such a calm, cool, southern, just way of just taking this thing that's full of risk and communicating it in a way that's not that just, kind of makes everything clear to them, right? And he's confident about it. I'm not. I'm not sure. I don't have the experience. And you can go through different types of conversations, and you know how to evaluate. This one, guys, self-awareness, emotional awareness, knowing the other person that I'm going to talk to, what's their situation? I remember I had a difficult conversation with a friend of mine, and we argued so hard. We were in like a big fight. And someone came to us and saw us, and he said, guys, it's too late to be talking. Just go to sleep. Everybody go home. You can't talk about this right now. That person looked at us and said, it's too late for them to have an effective conversation. The environment is too difficult. You cannot do that, right? All right. So they evaluated, but I couldn't evaluate. Okay. Now, so the point is that we're learning together. So like riding a bike, good communication is a learned skill. It's something you learn. As with all skills, it takes time, so you're not going to get it right away, effort, and failure. And the effort part is hard because, if you're trying to become a better communicator, especially, like one thing you'll learn in counseling is like this, in marriage and family therapy, we have a very systemic approach to things. So there's no you don't just counsel like one person and you're going to solve that person's problems. You have a whole system that person is a part of. And you have to think within the context of that system, okay? So sometimes we're all a part of a system. This is a system. You're a part of a system with your family, with your extended family, with your friends, with all these things. The system supports you in staying the way you are. You guys get what I'm saying? The system supports you in staying the way you are, even if the way you are is not healthy. Like your family, and I'm not saying in a bad way, we all have this. Your family could be contributing and supporting the problem. And sometimes you'll find if you're counseling someone in a counseling session, if you have like a husband and wife, and the husband starts growing and like figuring things out, that like all of a sudden like he's getting better, but the wife all of a sudden has a big issue, right? Because she's part of the system. And this happens the other way around too, that the system is fighting change. It doesn't want you to change. That's what homeostasis is, right? Like there's this steady state and you don't want to touch it, okay? So it takes effort because now if you're used to arguing one way, you have to work hard to argue a different way. You have to say, wait, I know we fight like this all the time, but we can't fight like this anymore. And also it takes failure. It's possible to be a bad communicator and to become a good one. And it's possible to be a good communicator and to become a better one. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Have I lost you guys? Are you guys with me? Okay, good. All right. So feel free to interrupt. So, consequences of bad communication. Number one is you could feel stuck in a problem. Sometimes you kind of look at the problems in your life and I'm like, I really just can't get out of this. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this problem. It just repeats over and over. A few days ago, I was talking to someone, and he was telling me that he's not happy with where he is in life, and it's mainly because of someone that he interacts with regularly. And I was telling him, well, like time going by isn't going to solve this problem. Like just time doesn't solve things by itself, So what are you going to do? He's like, And I said, okay, well, usually, when I'm in a situation like this and I want to talk through it, I try to, before I approach the person or someone that could help me, I go to to someone who could talk to that person. I go and talk to one of my friends or a mentor of mine. And he's like, okay. So he kept getting all this advice from people to talk to the person. And he doesn't want to. He feels stuck. He doesn't have confidence that conversation is going to be effective. So sometimes if there's bad communication on either end, we feel stuck in the problems that we're in. Inability to achieve goals in life. How many times are we in wondering, why didn't I succeed in this thing? Even my communication with myself is not effective. Like I talk to myself. We all talk to ourselves, by the way. But I talk to myself. I tell myself, hey, you got to do this thing you got to do, right? This is your goal in life. But why is that conversation that I'm having not effective? What's missing? Why am I not achieving my goals? And what about the goals that rely on other people? Like I need other people to work with me. Why can't we achieve? Why can't we succeed? Why not? Sometimes it's rooted in bad communication. Also, just wasted time. We've all been in conference calls at work. You know what this is like. So, and also hurt emotions. Like you can be in the middle of a discussion and somebody says something so painful that you never forget. Like I was actually just a few days ago thinking about something that someone said to me that was like really confused me completely, right? And I'm like, what just happened? Like, why am I still hurt by this? So your emotions could be hurt if communication is not good. And the last one or two is damaged relationships. Relationships that, like, you guys can imagine this scenario. You're talking about something, a little difficult issue comes up, people start yelling, somebody walks out the door and kicks it and kicks the other person and throws things, right? And then now nobody wants to talk to anybody anymore. The relationship is damaged. But is it damaged for good? It depends. Depends on a lot of things. And lastly, lack of growth to full potential. I believe very firmly that God knows our full potential. And God is the one who equips us to reach our full potential. And some of us, we will never reach our full potential, or we'll have a very hard time getting there, or we'll spend less time in life being at our full potential because we can't communicate our way higher, up, better. Okay? All right. So, what is good communication? Can anybody tell me what good communication is? By the way, I'm a really awkward person, so I could like be silent for like a long time. So I'm just gonna wait, and just till somebody says something. Yes.
It's clear.
Wait, clear. Can you I agree with you, but what does that actually mean? Like, what does it mean, clear?
I mean, there's like it's thorough. There's no I have to get into it to kind of figure out what the person's saying. To read into their body language.
Yeah.
Read into their tone. It's they're very, very, very frank. And there's just clarity.
Great. Thank you.
I think good communication really rests on the fact I'm both the communicator and the person being communicated to.
Yes, good.
So I think good communication is a piece of it of being able to read your audience and modifying your message in such a way that they are able to receive it. So I agree that things have to be clear and honest, but if the person in front of you is still not receiving a clear and honest message, it still may not be good communication. So good communication means that not only is the message you're trying to relay being relayed in the way that you want it to, but the person who's receiving it is able to also receive it based on their skill set.
Yes, you're using a lot of the right words. That's great. Good. Yes.
I think asking questions, not only clarifying questions, but also questions that kind of demonstrate understanding.
Yeah. Wow, so you guys don't need to hear this talk, actually. You guys got this. No. Yeah. Anything else? What else is good communication? Yes?
I know someone said this, but active listening. So
Yeah.
oh, someone said that.
That's kind of been said. That's what I was going to say. It's kind of
Repeating back or paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing, yeah, good.
So that way the other person understands that you are empathizing or listening.
Good. All very good things. Yes.
On the receiving end of good communication, and I think the discussions or things I've had that I consider to be good communication in my life, that ended up with me being convicted of some truth or some fact.
Yeah.
Kind of changed
Good.
my view about something.
Yes.
I felt that was.
Yeah, so you're getting to a very important point, which is that it's genuine. It's grounded in truth. There's your heart is open. You're not like for something to convict you, that means that your heart had to be receptive, right? Your heart had to be accepting of something, right? And for your heart to receive something, you had to actually really be effectively communicating so that you can connect with that person. So you can't receive something if you're not connected with that person, right? You connected in a way where you could receive that message into an open heart, and that convicted you, right? It doesn't happen any other way, guys, by the way. And I'm not saying the connection has to be this long-lasting relationship. You could, we could only see each other for, this hour, but we have a connection, and you had an open heart, and I had an open heart, and we each were convicted by something. Yes?
I think good communication also means that it needs to be done in love. So I think it's not necessarily what you say, but how you say it. So I think it's, like I agree with what everyone is saying, it has to be honest, and it has to be true, and it has to be clear. But sometimes you need to communicate something that's hard to say, but you can say it in a way that's not hurtful.
Yes. That's a great point.
Some people are just kind of being like, well, I'm just honest. Well, you can be honest but not mean.
Yes. Yes. That's right. That's absolutely right. Thank you.
It has to be healthy. For example, like when you were just saying that everybody's heart, the two people, each person's heart is open. So once that barrier is opened up and there's a trust, what you're speaking to the person or what you're communicating has to be real, has to be true. To the point where if it's false and it can be corruptive. So if it's a lie and you're just building this whole thing up where to the point it's so good that you start believing it, it's unhealthy for yourself, it's also unhealthy for that person. And you walk away and it can lead to other things. So
Yeah.
it has to be extremely healthy.
Yeah, and health and healthiness in communication is a big topic, right? In terms of like proper boundaries and honesty and
That's
so many things.
Like
Yeah.
social media. People are just going on, they're seeing all these different messages being given to them, but which one is the healthiest? Which one is true? And then it's so easy to share it, just spread it out to the rest of your people, and then you're just spreading out what you can't determine whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
You just agree with it, it just feels good.
Yeah, and actually,
Sometimes what it feels good.
Great,
It's not
great.
good. It's not really good.
great, and I want to get to that point about, because there's this whole thing about like what's the message in the communication, but I'm just trying to focus a little bit more on just in a pure sense, good communication, regardless of what the message is. But you're right. Yeah.
Just pulling from what different people said, I feel like it needs to be wise. So, like what you're choosing to share, when you're choosing to share it, the person that you're choosing to share it with, like I think there needs to be like wisdom and thought before the communication takes place. So good communication, I think, is wise and thoughtful as opposed to maybe like impulsive.
Good. Yeah. Great. So a pure definition is that good communication is effective delivery of the intended message. So I'll give you an example soon, but it's the effective delivery of an intended message. Effective means accurate and timely. So the intended message, like whatever my message is, that thing was accurately delivered. And at the right time. It also means that we're talking about delivery, not just the sending of the message or the receiving of the message. And the example I want you to think about is we all get, nowadays, a lot of stuff we buy is like through the internet, and we're getting lots of shipments, right? When has UPS or FedEx or the post office or whoever, when have they succeeded? What do they call success on a day-to-day basis? When do they say their job is complete? It's when the package was picked up from the sender, moved, like transported somehow, and then left with the recipient who acknowledged receipt, right? Do you guys get what I'm saying? So this means that it's not just, if the sender sends it out, they haven't succeeded yet. If it gets to its destination but it isn't delivered, like doesn't actually, like gets to like, New York, but it's not in front of the house, they haven't succeeded yet. If it gets into the hands of the recipient and they say, no, it's broken, take it back, they haven't succeeded yet. If it gets to the recipient and they say, yes, this is the package, this is it, they've succeeded. So good communication is the effective delivery of the intended message. You could see already that not all of this is dependent on the sender of the message, right? Some of it's dependent on the recipient. But I'm just trying to tell you that if you look at from the outside and you look at an interaction, there's good communication in general. I'm not talking about this person's a good communicator, this person's a bad communicator. No, I'm saying this communication is good because the messages are being delivered something effectively. Yes. All right. Does that make sense? All right. Good. Another thing about what is good communication. It depends on the sender and the receiver. So you may be a good communicator, and the other person on the other side is a bad communicator, or just not as good. You could be trying very hard, but I want you to know that remember this, because you could be the bad one and they could be the good one, right? So just remember that. So, but good communication happening depends on both. And from our Christian perspective, good communication is edifying, meaning it builds you up. This is the point you were making, that from just a pure sense, communication is delivery of an intended message. But from a Christian perspective, that message has to be edifying as well, has to be building up the other person. We don't talk if the message is not helpful. Is that clear? Like, we are Christians. We don't do stuff and waste energy and expend our efforts on things that do not help. I'm not saying that sitting down doing nothing isn't helpful. I'm not saying that joking around with people isn't helpful. That's all helpful, right? But going out and cursing people, telling people they're ugly, whatever we say, that's not good. That's not Christian, right? You might have effectively delivered the intended message. You hurt the person and you made them feel ugly, but that's not Christian communication. Is that clear? Okay. So us as Christians, we do Christian communication. All right. So I'm about to go, the last 2 slides are just 5 tips for good communication. Does anybody have any questions so far, any comments? Okay. Yes?
I think you may be getting into this, but if you can also share with us some tips as to how to communicate effectively when the receiver on the other end maybe is not ready and you sort of have to wait.
Yeah.
How long do you wait before they're ready for this conversation, or how do you handle when you're in a situation, you feel stuck per se, and you don't know how to get to this point of effective communication when a lot of it, like you said earlier, relies on the other person.
Yeah.
Being ready, being open.
Yeah, so, some of it is very situational, but there's 2 tips combined that I think address your question. One of them is going to be about, it's here, I promise. Wait, don't read. Everybody stop reading. No, so that you're responsible for your own feelings. That's the first thing. So sometimes we're burdening the other person. Sometimes the other person is just not a good communicator, right? Sometimes we're just not going to get what we want. So I can't continue to burden and put the weight of my issues on that person. I need to accept that no change is happening this way, right? That's one thing, but there's more, which is the truth. The truth. And good communication involves acknowledgement of the truth. Sometimes the reason why there's bad communication is because we're too busy trying to deal with the immediate issue and not trying to deal with the structural issue or the foundational issue. If you're not able to communicate with someone about a specific issue and it keeps coming up, maybe that's not the issue at all. Maybe that's just a mask for what's actually going on. You say, depending on who it is, and there's lots of things lots of caveats like that are situational. But you could say, I feel like we're not connecting. I feel like I'm not able to get my message across. And we'll talk a little bit about some ways to say what your message is without burdening the other person with what you're feeling, right? Remember, your perceptions, your problems, your unwillingness to let something go. And we're going to talk about forgiveness too, by the way, next week. More is going to talk about forgiveness. But that's my thing. So sometimes I'm stuck in a situation, but I just need to let it go. It's just not changing. It's just not going to change. And that's it. And now, with that acceptance and embracing that fact, I need to find out how I'm going to move on. And that is very, very hard to do. And again, it depends on the situation. So maybe I'm kind of addressing this issue and not the issue you're talking about. But we can bring it up again later, and if you want to give more detail or yeah. Okay, so number 1, 5 tips. Oh yeah, go ahead. Okay, thank you. So 2 minutes per tip, guys. All right. So seek to understand the other. Ask open-ended questions. Think about what it must be like to be in the other's shoes. This is really important, that sometimes we're just so busy trying to deliver a message. That person is sending us a message sometimes without even saying something. There's a message. Understand, invest time. One of the things the greatest return you will get in a relationship is understanding yourself and understanding the other person. You might not even decide to have a relationship with that person later on in life. But one of the greatest ways to benefit from just the people around you is to understand more about them. Think about it as, I need to learn about you. I need to understand what you're saying. I need to know what it's like to feel what you're feeling. I need to know what you're feeling, right? Forget about messages and moving messages around. I'm going to be here and I'm going to take, I'm going to receive, I'm going to be open, okay? I'm going to take what your experience is. How in the world are we going to effectively communicate if I have no idea who the other person is? If I don't know what their experience is, what are they seeing? Does everybody in life who disagrees with me just stink? Like is just a horrible person? No, right? If I understand them, I'll realize there's another thing. Number 2 is understand where you stand. Know your state. What is your position, right? And you have to go into conversations or in the middle of a conversation, just say it to your head really quickly. Don't say it for too long because then you're not going to be listening. But just say to yourself real quick, like, hey, what's my state right now? Where do I stand, right? Number 1, am I like sad? Am I happy? Am I angry? Like, there's this therapist called John Gottman, and he has this book about, he did a lot of like research where he would invite married couples into like this, they call it a lab, but it was like an apartment, but with like all these microphones and wires and heart rate things and just video cameras and all this stuff. So to do research, to see like how they fight, he was able to predict divorce with like a 95% accuracy within the first 5 minutes, something like that. Something crazy like that. The numbers are probably just a little off, but so, but one of the things he said is that when you're getting angry, your heart rate elevates, right? And you could start sweating, you could just get really angry, you get worked up. He's like, at that point in time, you're not even able to receive a message. You're not able to. Like physically, your body's not letting you, your mind is not working. You're not going to take in a message. So stop, right? This is real stuff. So where are you emotionally and physically? Like what's going on? Intellectually, sometimes you could be going over and over a discussion because you're just missing facts. This happens to me a lot at work, where one of the first things we need to do, like we're trying to figure something out, and everyone's like, just wait, let's just go get facts and bring them all. Just bring all the facts and organize them so we can talk, so we can decide. You're trying to figure out how to furnish your apartment, but you don't have the measurements, right? You got to get the measurements, right? You don't have the measurements. How are you going to furnish the apartment? You can keep arguing about whether you like this table or this whatever, but you need the measurements, right? You just need them. So get the facts, right? Okay. Number 3 is remember that you're responsible for your own thoughts and feelings. Like, if I am angry, that's my anger. No one can make you angry. People can do things where your emotional response is anger, right? But no one actually goes inside your heart and turns on the anger, flips the anger switch, right? You're the one who chooses to get angry, right? That's your decision. I'm not saying that you're not angry for a valid reason. You probably have a valid reason to be angry, I'm sure. But you cannot say, you make me so angry. You make me you made me yell. You made me do that bad thing that I just did that was so bad I can't even remember it, right? Like, you made me. No. That's your thing. It's yours. You own it. Mine, right? I don't yell. When I yell, it's because I decided to yell. Or if I do something bad, it's because I decided to do it, right? And if I know that I'm going to go into a situation and this person always does things that I respond to in anger, I need to decide what I'm going to do the next time I'm going to go talk to them, right? I just got to choose. It's my decision, right? But sometimes we burden the other person. Like if someone is busy. Like I remember this, I had a situation like this before. Someone I like to talk to was busy. And when they were busy, I felt neglected. I said, I feel so neglected. Like, how can this person make me feel neglected? And then somebody said to me, that's your thing. They're not out there to make you feel neglected. They're just actually busy. Why do you feel neglected? Like, you have to work on that, right? That's your thing. So I'm responsible for my own emotions. I'm responsible for that. I can't go and yell at people, telling them to make me feel neglected. That's my thing. All right. And this is the last slide, is communicate godly love through your body language. Communicate godly love through your body language. I love the story of Jesus seeing the man who had leprosy. And Jesus decided to go and touch the man, which was like something you didn't do at that time to someone who had leprosy, right? You wouldn't go and touch a leper. But Jesus went and he touched him. He communicated love through his body language. I'm not saying go around and just touch everybody, that's crazy. But what I'm trying to say is look at each other sincerely. Look at each other. Connect, right? Remember that the message of conviction? Like this conviction thing just means that there's a connection. I'm not saying like a very super amazing deep one. I'm just saying something connected. Look at that person and connect with them. Remind yourself that this is a human being. This is someone who's made in the same image that I'm made in. This is someone who is broken as much as I am. This is someone who wants to be better. This is someone who I care about. This is someone that God loves. Like, look at people and remind yourself of those things. All the things I just said are true for all of us. So when you look at each other and make eye contact, you're not making eye contact because there's a formula that you have to solve and that just makes communication better. No, it's because eye contact is correlated with connection. And your heart has to be in it. You have to connect. Remember that that person is a part of you in a way, right? In a very grand way, right? Okay. And smile. This is like one of the best things. Everybody should know how to smile. All right? Just smile, guys. All right? Just smile. Enough of that. I'll just tell you that one. Just smile. All right. Last one is let all your communication be grounded in truth. Let all your communication be grounded in truth. Right? Guys, Jesus said to the Samaritan woman, those who worship God must worship in spirit and truth. I am the way, the truth, and the life, right? We have to live in the truth. What does that actually mean? It means that I need to remind myself about the truth of life. Like I need to put things into perspective. Like I'm in this little issue right here, which looks like a big issue. But what's in perspective, what's the full truth about this issue? How much does it really matter that this little thing is happening? Let's keep that truth in perspective. Keep heaven in perspective, because heaven is a part of the truth, right? We look for the resurrection of the dead and the life of the age to come. That's truth. Keep that in perspective. That helps you to put things into perspective. Never lie, ever, ever lie. And I hope that everyone's word here is solid and full of integrity, right? And that's a separate topic, but never lie. And do not be afraid to confront issues. Like this takes it's a separate skill, like conflict resolution and that type of stuff. But do not be afraid to confront issues. Remember, guys, that in communication, you could be stuck in a rut and there's an underlying issue, and that underlying issue might need to be addressed. You might not have the skills at this moment to address it. You might not have the awareness at this moment to go and address it. But it needs to be addressed because things don't solve themselves. Any questions? Yes?
I have a question about that never lie. Because at least in my life, I've found many instances where a white lie seems appropriate and the kind thing to do. And I just wondered about that. I was never to lie. I think a lot of people would be hurt.
Yeah, I mean, not lying doesn't also mean go and just drop this bomb of like the truth, of the full truth on all things at all times, right? It just means that when you open your mouth, like when we open our mouths and something comes out, that thing better be true, right? But you need wisdom to choose what to say, right? Like we need wisdom to decide which truth and at what time we should say something. Like Jesus even said to the disciples, like at this time, you're not going to know this thing, right? And even for catechumens, people who are joining the church, there are things that they won't understand until after they're baptized. There's truth, and there's truth, and it's all truth. But the timing is also an important dimension of this. Does that?
I was thinking, just to follow up, I was thinking like growing up, like when you said that, like the example that always comes to my mind is like, say someone's like, oh, do you like my hair? And you don't like their hair. That's what I always think about. Like, oh, do you like my outfit? And you don't like their outfit. Like, that's the example where it's like, standard answer is just yes, and that's
Yeah.
Do I look bad?
right. And I think that's what I was thinking when she brought that.
Yeah, so somebody says, do I look fat? You say, you look great, you know? And that's it, you know? The problem with not lying is that sometimes it takes a lot of work to think of like another way to respond without kind of, you know, you don't want to get into a whole thing where you're talking to somebody about weight loss and all that. You don't have time. You don't want to do all that, right? It might not be your place, right? But you could say, oh, I really like how you look or something, you know, just something. But we need wisdom, and it takes time to build that wisdom, right? To decide how to respond without, being locked into a certain path of how to respond, because sometimes people ask us a specific question and we feel locked, Yeah.
I have a question, actually. I think we talked quite a bit about not hurting somebody else through communication. But someone once told me that even sometimes God communicates to us stuff that sometimes hurts us.
Yes.
And so is there some rule,
Yes.
some place where that's not a taboo?
No, so-
That's white light.
Sure. So there's a difference between hurt and harm. There's a difference between hurt and harm. Hurt, a surgeon has to hurt you to open you up and to get stuff out or to do stuff, right? But he's not doing it for your harm, right? He's doing it for your betterment. So we have to do that too. The truth hurts sometimes, but the truth will never hurt, will never harm someone, will never harm someone. Maybe your method of delivering the truth might be harmful, right? But the truth itself, the raw, pure truth, is never, ever harmful, ever, because it's God Himself, right? So, but again, we don't just going to take the truth and start throwing it at people, right? But that's why you're not going to go get people to come to Christ by telling them, hey, you're lost, you need to find Christ or anything. We don't do that, right? There's a whole, God delivers the truth through love, right? But sometimes it has to hurt. We're done. Okay, all right. Well, thank you guys so much.